to the second segment is university governance and graduate attributes. Now, the first part of the presentation, university governance, it will be largely technical and it will be talking about the different statutory bodies that are there in the university, and maybe to some extent I will be talking about the functions of these statutory bodies as well. So this will constitute the major part of my presentation in the second segment. And towards the end, the last slide will talk about the graduate attributes. Okay, now here is some statistics for you. And I have taken the data from All India Survey on Higher Education, which is available on the internet. If you go to MHRD website, you have this All India Survey on Higher Education and the data is given. So this is for 2018-19 and the figures are interesting. So according to All India Survey on Higher Education 2018-19, we have 46 central universities in India. We have 371 state public universities, because if you remember in my earlier slides, that is Unit 1, I talked about two kinds of state universities. You have state government-run universities and you also have state private universities. So according to this data, we have 371 state public universities and we have 304 state private universities. Now, as I said earlier, in India, we have deemed to be universities, and I also told you that we have two categories of deemed to be universities, the government-run deemed to be universities and the private partners. So in India, we have 34 government-run deemed to be universities, and we have 80 private deemed to be universities, and we have 127 institutes of national importance. So this statistics, you have it on the MHRD website, and this is for the year 2018-19. Okay. Now the next few slides, they will give you some broad templates. I call it broad templates. Now you take a central university, you take a state university, who are the authorities? Now I would like to caution you that we do not have a standard template for all universities in India. Even within central universities, there are differences, and even within state universities, there are differences. Okay, so this is only a broad template, and this particular slide talks about the various officials or the various authorities as far as a central university is concerned. But please bear in mind, this again differs from one central university to other central universities. So this is a broad template. So in central universities, for instance, Pondicherry University is a central university. The Central University of Kashmir is a central university. Hyderabad Central University, that is also a central university. So a broad template, you have a visitor. And invariably, the President of India happens to be the visitor of a central university. Then you have the Chancellor, the Vice President ex officio is the Chancellor of a central university. Then that particular state higher education minister is the Pro-Chancellor. Then the governor of that state is the rector. Then you have the Vice Chancellor. And who is the Vice Chancellor? The Vice Chancellor is the chief or the principal academic and executive officer of the university, the key figure as far as the university is concerned. Then under the Vice Chancellor, you have one or many pro-Vice Chancellors, and usually the term of the pro-Vice Chancellor is co-terminus with the tenure of the Vice Chancellor. Then of course you have the directors or the deans of various schools and various faculties. Then you have the registrar, the controller of examinations, you have the finance officer, and you have the proctor. So these are the various positions in a central university. Now let us take a state university. As I said earlier, once again, there are differences between state universities, but then the usual template or the broad template is a state university. For instance, you have Madras University, or you have Calicut University, or you have Bangalore University. Okay, so this will be the broad template. So what happens in the state university is the governor is usually the chancellor of the state university. Then after the governor, who is the chancellor, you have the state higher education minister, and he or she is the pro-chancellor of that university. Then, of course, you have the chancellor. Then state universities, some state universities, they have the position of pro-vice chancellors. For instance, Kerala University, Thiruvananthapuram, they have this position, pro-vice chancellor, whereas in Madras University, you do not have any pro-vice chancellor. So this varies from state university to university. Then you have the registrar, you have the controller of examinations, you have the finance officer, then you have one or two or maybe three deputy registrars and quite a few assistant registrars. So this is the broad template as far as a state university is concerned. Okay, since the program is organized by Ramanujan College of Delhi, which is a constituent college of Delhi University, I would like to talk about the administrative structure of Delhi University. Who are the key officials in Delhi University? So you have the president, who is the visitor of Delhi University. Then you have the vice president of India, who acts as the chancellor of the university. Then there is another position, the pro-chancellor. Then, of course, you have the vice chancellor. Then you have the pro-vice chancellor. Then you have deans of colleges. Then you have director, South Delhi campus. Then you have one more director, campus of open learning. Then you have the treasurer or the bursar. Then you have the proctor, the dean students welfare. Then you have the registrar, and you have the deans of various schools and various faculties. Okay, so that was the broad template as far as the governance structure of universities is concerned. So one broad template for central universities and the other for state universities. Now, what are the statutory bodies in the university, particularly with reference to central universities? Okay, once again, the terminology varies, because sometimes it is called executive council. In some universities, it is called the board of management. In some universities, it is called syndicate. In some institutions, it is called the senate. So the apex body of a university, whether it is a central university or a state university, is known by different names. Okay, but then the broad template as far as a central university is concerned is this. Many central universities have a statutory body called the court. Then you have the executive council. The executive council is also known as the BOM, the board of management. In some universities, the executive council is also known as the syndicate, and that is the principal executive body of a university. Then, of course, you have the academic council, which is the key or the principal academic body of a university. Then you have the planning and monitoring board. In some universities, the planning and monitoring board is also known as the Senate. Then, of course, you have the finance committee, and you have the other major committees. Okay, then Central Universities Act 2009. So according to the Central Universities Act 2009, you have the court, you have the executive council, you have the academic council, you have the BOS, the board of studies of various subjects, and you have the finance committee. Okay, so as far as the governance is concerned, you have number 1, acts, number 2, statutes, number 3, ordinances, and number 4, regulations. I will not be talking much on these. These are technical terms and legal terms. Okay, statutes. Okay, statutes, they talk about the VC's appointment, the tenure of the VC, the constitution of the board of studies, the recruitment and the appointment of teachers. So in other words, what can the vice chancellor do, what can the executive council do, and what should the UGC do? So all these are defined in terms of acts, statutes, ordinances, and regulations. Now this is an important slide. Now this slide talks about under UGC. All of us know UGC, AICTE, these are the two prime bodies as far as higher education in India is concerned. The technical educational side is taken care of by AICTE. Arts and science education is taken care of by UGC. Now under UGC, we have 15 professional councils, and these councils take care of respective subjects. Okay, so they have 3 functions, and the primary function is giving approval. For instance, you want to start a nursing college, then you have to get the permission of INC, Indian Nursing Council. You want to start a college of homeopathy, then you have to get the permission, the sanction of the Central Council of Homeopathy. So these are the 15 professional councils and the UGC. Let me read them rapidly. We have AICTE, All India Council of Technical Education. Then you have MCI, Medical Council of India. So they give sanction for the starting of medical colleges in India. Then you have ICAR, ICAR, Agricultural Research. Then if you want to start a college of education, obviously you need the permission and sanction of NCTE. Okay, then PCI, Dental Council of India, PCI, Pharmacy Council of India, INC, Nursing Council of India, then PCI. For all legal programs, you need the approval, you need the sanction of the Bar Council of India. Then we have CCH, Central Council of Homeopathy, CCMI, Central Council for Indian Medicine, Alternate Medicine, then COA, Council of Architecture, then Distance Education Council, in case your university. Earlier I talked of the dual mode university, which offers education through the regular mode and also through the distance mode. So if your university wants to start any program through the distance mode, then you need the permission, you need the sanction of DEC, Distance Education Council. Then you have RCI, Rehabilitation Council of India, then Rural Institutes, NCRI, then finally you have State Council of Higher Education. So these are the 15 professional bodies and they function under UGC. UGC is the apex body, they function under the UGC. The main job is to give sanction in their respective fields. Now, dear friends, we come to the last part of the second segment. In this slide, I would like to talk of graduate attributes. Now, two questions. Question number one, what are graduate attributes? And a list of graduate attributes. Now, what are graduate attributes? Now, a student passing out of a particular institution, it could be an autonomous college, it could be an affiliated college, it could be a state university, it could be a deemed to be university, it could be a central university. Now, for instance, any student graduating from Delhi University will possess or is supposed to possess these qualities. These qualities are known as graduate attributes. Any student passing out of Ramanujan College, Delhi University, is supposed to possess these qualities or these attributes. So they are called graduate attributes. Please remember, all students of any institutions are supposed to possess all these attributes. Maybe the degree in which student A possesses these qualities and student B possesses these qualities, that may vary. But all students of any institutions are supposed to possess these attributes. So that is why they are called graduate attributes. Now, in my opinion, there are 10 key attributes. You may delete one or two, or you may add one or two. So that is up to you. So this would be the standard template or the broad template. Now, any student, any college student or any university student or any PhD student is supposed to possess critical thinking. Memorizing alone is not the key ingredient as far as higher education is concerned. In fact, that is only a basic step in Bloom's taxonomy. So critical thinking is the major quality as far as higher education is concerned. Not only critical thinking, a student should be able to think on his own or think on her own. In other words, should not be bound by any ideology, whether it is a religious ideology or a cultural ideology or a political ideology. In other words, a college student or a university student should be capable of free thinking, independent thinking. And the third attribute, he or she should have problem-solving skills. Fourth one, a multi-linguistic, a multi-religious, a multicultural perspective is absolutely essential, particularly in today's global context, where there are tensions based on religious diversities, linguistic diversities, cultural diversities. A graduate attribute, all graduate students are supposed to possess a multicultural perspective, a multilinguistic, a multi-religious, a multicultural perspective. And all college students and all university students are supposed to be very good at communication skills, both spoken skills and written skills. And all students passing out of colleges and universities should have the capacity to synthesize and blend theory and praxis. In other words, what they learn in classrooms is theory. Okay, how they apply the theory to a given situation or to a given context. Now, not many students are adept at this, but a good student should possess the skill or the capability to blend or synthesize theory and action. So the seventh graduate attribute is interdisciplinarity. What is the meaning of interdisciplinarity? Cutting across disciplines, crossing borders, crossing frontiers. So that is very essential. I'm a physics student. I'm a chemistry student. I'm a student of life sciences. I'm a student of English. That is okay at one level. But at another level, at a higher level, okay, so chemistry and physics should come together. English and sociology should come together. Mathematics and economics should come together. So that is the meaning of interdisciplinarity, crossing boundaries, crossing disciplines. Then entrepreneurial skills. Today we talk a lot about vocational education and training. Against this backdrop, students should possess entrepreneurial skills so that they are on their own after their graduation. They need not depend on the government for employment. They can be on their own and they can have some startups. Then empathy. Empathy is a much needed graduate attribute in today's context. The last one is life skills. In fact, World Health Organization talks of life skills as a very important component of higher education. And the World Health Organization also calls life skills as psychosocial competency. So dear friends, that marks the end of the second segment or in the second component. And in the second segment, I have talked about two major issues. The first issue, what are the major administrative bodies and statutory bodies that exist in state universities and central universities? And they also very briefly talked about the functions of these administrative bodies and statutory bodies. Then in the last slide, I talked about graduate attributes. The qualities or the attributes or the salient features that all students, college students and university students should possess. So these are the two major ideas in the second segment of my presentation. So that marks the end of the second segment of my presentation.